Welcome to my Days of Our Lives official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Chad makes a discovery in Abigail's tablet. Rafe met with Ava at Trip and Wendy's apartment. Ava explained that she was in a hurry because she demanded to prove herself to Roman in her new job. Rafe was surprised to learn of Ava's job change, but moved on to the content he wanted to bandy, Clyde's book. Ava verified Harris had streamlined her on the findings. Rafe wanted to find a motive for Gil as the killer, and he demanded Ava's help. Ava claimed that she didn't have any useful information about Gil or Lee. She sarcastically suggested hypnotism, which Rafe allowed. Might not be a bad idea. Ava claimed she had been racking her brain, trying to flash back anything important, but had come up empty. She reiterated that she demanded to get back to work. Rafe continued to supplicate her and said he demanded her help poorly. Rafe suspected that Lee might have been working with Clyde, but Ava shot down that notion. Rafe also pressed Ava about her own possible association with Clyde, since Ava had preliminarily been in charge of a medicine ring, at her father's decree. Ava shot back that those events had happened decades before, and she grew hostile as Rafe questioned her previous employment at the bistro. Rafe could not understand why Stefan would take the fall for Ava. He asked Ava if Stefan and she had been having an affair behind Gabby's reverse. Ava incontinently protested and claimed Gabby had been the only woman for Stefan. Rafe continued to press Ava on her history as a felonious, which further offended Ava. Rafe presented his proposition that Gil had arrived at the apartment, looking for Ava, and that Lee had been the unlucky victim of circumstance. Rafe assumed Ava had been the intended victim rather of Lee. Rafe again contended with Ava to tell him the verity about her association with Gil so that he could make a believable motive for Lee's murder. Ava asserted that she had no involvement with Gil other than as his hand. She suspected that Gil had gone to the apartment because the bistro is not an ideal place for a sexual assault. With gashes in her eyes, Ava stated forcefully that she had killed Gil in toned defense. A tearful Ava commended how Gil's death had visited her, and the idea that she might have also been laterally responsible for Lee's death added further weight to her guilt. She wondered if Rafe was trying to vent himself the proposition to assuage his guilt about Gabby's lockup. Ava claimed formerly more that if she knew anything, she'd tell Rafe. While Rafe claimed he'd accept her answer for now, he advised that he'd keep digging as long as his family's freedom was on the line. When Rafe departed, Ava called Harris and left a communication saying she demanded to talk with him. After she hung up, Ava fretted about the prospect of telling Wendy about Ava's possible part in Lee's death. Ava supplicated that Rafe was wrong. At the bistro, Kristen joined Stefan as he poured Gil's records in the expedience of chancing a lead. Stefan heeded to discovering the necessary information and to setting Gabby free. Kristen begrudgingly expressed her stopgap to see Stefan and Gabby reunited, which surprised Stefan, as he hadn't allowed of his family as a hard, stunk romantic. Kristen verified she was a romantic underneath her ice-cold surface. She advised Stefan, still, that when Gabby was set free, to keep that wine down from me. Stefan and Kristen wrote about the terms of their deal. Stefan assured Kristen he was not planning to renege on their agreement, but he reminded her the top precedence was getting Gabby out of captivity. Stefan wanted to leave and talk to.j. right down, but Kristen encouraged him to stay and see what Rafe could uncover. Sloane set up Leo with a bottle of wine in the domain. She snarked about him being drunk again, and he asked her if she wanted a nip of the good stuff, courtesy of E.J. Mara's bank account. Sloane asked Leo if he was crazy. Leo began drunkenly quoting Shakespeare, which urged a frustrated Sloane to snap at him to get over being ditched on your burrow by a man who had supposedly not loved Leo. She also raged at Leo for betraying the agreement they had made. Leo defended himself by claiming he'd been good to Sloane. Either, he reasoned, the only other person who knew the verity because of Leo ways.j. Sloane contemplated if Leo telling E.J. might have been her fault, since she had left Leo drunk and alone. The two gagged about Leo's crapulous state and how long it had taken him to tell J. Sloane laid into Leo again for not recognizing his word to her. Leo lifted the bottle and said, "This Joe had other plans." Sloane was not buying Leo's attempt to condemn his broken pledge on the alcohol, so Leo backed off and tried out a sincere reason. He talked about his fondness for Jude and how a picture he'd of the boy always lifted his mood. Leo believed, however, that Jude should be with his natural mama, the Bone, who actually likes kitties. An incredulous Sloane let Leo know that Jude was no way going back to Nicole. Leo was confused because he'd believed Fate. J. would want his baby back. Sloane reminded Leo about the terms of his deal. Wife. J. and commanded Leo to stop asking questions. Leo said asking questions was a part of his nature as an intelligencer, and his guilt had also been eating at him. He wondered how Sloane could sleep at night after having prevaricated to Eric for so long. Sloane dismissed guilt as a waste of time, and Leo snarked that she had to have gotten that idea from How Not to Have a Heart in 10 Easy Way. Leo reminded Sloane that they hadn't been party to a small taradiddle, but had let a grieving mama believe her child to be dead. Sloane hovered that if Leo said a word to Nicole, Sloane would tell J. about Leo's duplicity. Also, she coldly stated, his bank account would be the least of Leo's worries. Was surprised to find Nicole in the living room of the Demerrimants, as he'd allowed. She'd still be at work. Nicole explained that she was on a break and had gone home in expedience of doctoring effects up with Holly, who had been avoiding her. J. apologized for his part in the argument with Holly, and Nicole assured him he'd nothing to feel sorry about. Nicole knew Fate. J. would do anything for her. Nicole mused about her rocky relationship with Holly, starting with when Holly had been born, only to be thrust into the middle of a guardianship battle between Nicole and Chloe. Nicole wondered if effects might have been different if she had been allowed to raise Holly from Holly's birth. Nicole wished she had had that occasion with her Andy. J's son, but she had realized it was not meant to be. J. looked shamefaced as Nicole spoke. Nicole wondered if J. knew what he'd gotten himself into when he'd married her. J. assured his woman that after Sammy, being married to Nicole had been a bloody cakewalk. Nicole asked J. to let Holly know that Nicole had been wanting to talk with her. J. promised he would. Also, he suggested Nicole attend a forthcoming megacity fundraiser with him. Nicole allowed. The fundraiser would be a good occasion to interrogate about the city's charities and to get further information for her story on the unhoused. She happily agreed to the date, kissed J, and left. Suffed heavily and sat down for a drink. Stefan and Kristen disturbed his attempt to drown his sorrows. J. sarcastically saluted them as my two favorite people in the world. The triad traded cuts. Andy. J. needled Kristen about Demerra stock rising. Stefan tried to play temporary interceder. Butte. J. indicted his family of trying to oust J. as CEO and install Kristen in his place. J. raised a toast to Stefano's portrayal and cracked, to family. Entered another unpleasant caller when Rafe arrived. Following an unwelcome greeting from J, Rafe presented J. with the train that contained photos of Gil's bloody point on the black book. Kristen and Stefan looked on with violent interest as Rafe made his case for continuing Lee's murder disquisition. J. flippantly handed the train back to Rafe and scarfed that Rafe had nothing, especially since Gabi's hubby had been the one to discover the substantiation. J. also reasoned that the book and the blood could be numerous times old.